There is Nightwish with try this again. Wish I Had an Angel, and that's off of their CD Once. Before that, the Ferrymen with Fool You All, off of their one and only self-titled CD. Now that group is I don't know if I call it a super group, but it's a assemblage of people that had plenty of experience in other bands. The singer is named Ronnie Romero, and I only became aware of him about a year ago as the lead singer of Lords of Black. But ever since then, I've been keeping an eye out for him, and he's showing up in a lot of different places. He was the vocalist in one of the reincarnations of Rainbow recently. He sounds a lot like Ronnie James Dio, and so he's in the Ferrymen, he's in Lords of Black. He's also singing for a band called Destinia. They don't have a disc out yet, as far as I know, but there should be one on the way. And in fact, if you go to YouTube and search on Destinia, Destinia, you're going to see a couple of videos that they've already shoved out the door for people to listen to Destinia. And man, that guy's got some pipes. So I'm really looking forward to when that disc finally comes out. Well, thanks for listening to Mostly Metal, or at least the part of it that's going to end right now. I have control of the microphone for another half an hour, and you know my hobbies. If you've listened to this show before, you know what I like to talk about, and you know that not only is it about heavy metal, it's also about wrestling, local wrestling, and so let's take a break for the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program.
Your insubordination will not be tolerated.
I'm Ken the Metal Professor. It's a hair past 9:30, and it's time for the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. I've left you in the lurch for a few weeks straight because there wasn't a ton of wrestling stuff. I mean, there were shows here and there in the Northwest Indiana region, and I went to one of them or two of them, but I've had sort of a slow wrestling month for the last month. I went to one show. I'll tell you just very briefly about it almost immediately here. But other than that, not much going on, and so I just didn't take the time to include any of these segments on my Sunday night broadcast. But I think that there's enough coming up soon that I really should jump in there and do that. So the show that I just went to recently was it wasn't last weekend. It was a couple of weekends ago. I could look up the date, but it's past, so it doesn't matter. But it was RCW, Revolution Championship Wrestling, out in Mishawaka, Indiana. And this show was called The Devil Cannot Die, and it was a special show, and here's why. If you've listened to this show before, you've probably heard me talk about a wrestler named Adam Bueller. He's actually been a guest in the studio. And Adam is battling cancer. It was sort of a surprise to him as well as everybody else. And so he's having difficulties with mounting medical bills and, you know that kind of stuff. And so it's been amazing to watch a lot of the wrestling community kind of pull together to support him. And there have been a couple of benefit shows, one a few weeks ago in southern Indiana, and now this show in Mishawaka, where all of the proceeds of the show went to Adam Bueller and his medical bills to help pay them off. And so it was a really cool night to watch everybody coming out there and loaning their talents for this particular cause. Just to sort of plug things a little bit, there was a show down in Jeffersonville, Indiana for the same purpose, and there's now been a DVD produced for that show. So if you're interested in helping support Adam, go look him up on Facebook, Adam Buell, B-U-E-L-L, or just search on Adam Bueller, which is his ring name. And you can find information about how to order that DVD. I think they're asking $15 plus shipping, but it's a full-blown 3-hour independent wrestling show with commentary and the whole shebang. So it's a good way to support a good cause. Now, RCW is not done with their philanthropy. they're no stranger to that. And in fact, in 12 days from now? How am I doing with my math? Yeah, 12 days. Friday, July 27th, they're having a show called the 11th Annual Slam Cancer Benefit Show. Now, this is the 11th annual, so you know this is not something that they just started doing. This will be at the Battelle Center in Mishawaka, Indiana, and very much like the show I just mentioned, The Devil Cannot Die, this is a benefit show. The proceeds of the show are going to go to support hospice care related to cancer in the South Bend and Mishawaka area. So that'll be at 7 o'clock on Friday, July 27th. So if you're all interested in trying out a local wrestling show and seeing what it's all about, if you haven't been to one, this would be a good way to do it. And if anybody makes fun of you, then you can say, hey, it's for a good cause. Now, if you go to metalprofessor.com, that's my website, you can search the menus on the left for NWIWRAP, which is this show, and you can pop up shows in 2018. And there's a whole list of shows that are coming up, and that is one of them, so you can keep an eye on these details. So what else is coming up in the near future? Thursday, July 19th, at 7 p.m., Functified Wrestling Federation will be doing a show outdoors at the Marshall County 4-H Fairgrounds in Argos, Indiana. This is a free event, and it's kind of weird to have one on Thursday. But this would be a good chance to get out and take a look at a wrestling show without any cost to yourself other than the gas. So this will be an outdoor show, part of a county fair. And again, Marshall County 4-H Fairgrounds in Argos, Indiana. This coming Thursday night, 7 p.m. Now, that's 7 p.m. Eastern, so watch that particular time change. Okay. This is going to be irregular, but this is one of the joys of live radio. Before I run down the rest of these items, I am going to take a little musical interlude here, and I'll tell you why when we get back. But hang in there. I'm going to play a little bit of Camelot for you, and then we will continue with the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. And we're back. This is Ken the Metal Professor, take 2 for the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. One of the joys of doing local radio by myself on a Sunday night is that there's nobody else around that I can go help. Hey, go let that guy in when somebody's expected to show up in the studio. And so I had to take a pause and go be the doorman myself. So I am very happy to welcome to the studio Mark Eitel. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, no problem, Ken. Thanks for having me, man.
And you can hear okay with the headphones and all that?
Perfect.
All right. So we have a couple of jobs to do here with myself and Mark, and mostly or all of it surrounds wrestling. And just before the break, what I was starting to do was run down some of the shows in the area that are coming up. But I also mentioned a show that I had gone to myself a couple of weeks ago called The Devil Cannot Die, which was a cancer benefit show put on by one of the promotions in the area, RCW. And they have another one coming up on July 27th. Called the 11th Annual Slam Cancer Benefit Show out in Mishawaka, and I've given the details about that. But it turns out, and Mark, can I call you like a relatively new wrestling fan?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, because it seems to me that you're basically having seen you, face to face a couple of times at events, and so what you post on social media, it seems like your trajectory into wrestling has been a little bit different in the sense that some people, they watched wrestling whenever it was and they got hooked on it, and then later they decided to start training. Whereas it seems like you're kind of doing both at the same time. You're training in a wrestling environment, and you're also now, it sounds like, getting out and going to shows and really starting to appreciate it. Is that kind of strange, or is that what do you think?
No, that's correct. Yes, I did start doing the shows. I got asked to do security, and then I was watching the ACW, who I do security for. Never been to wrestling. In fact, I actually thought it was kind of fake, but the guys at ACW were just incredible the first time I seen them. I attended 6 of the shows so far, and every time they wrestled, got better and better. And I decided to give it a try myself.
Okay, good. The reason I brought that up in the first place was that in this sort of overview of how active this area is in wrestling, you got to go to a show last night. There was not an ACW show; it was Black Label Pro, and so you got to experience, you know, the wrestling environment from a slightly different perspective, because even at ACW you're appreciating it, but you're on the clock when you're working security, whereas this one you just got to go in as a fan, right?
Correct.
So what was that like for you?
It was different. Different wrestlers. They were very. It was good. It was a very, very good show. The wrestlers, basically, pretty flawless in their performance. There was a lot of things that I have not seen in other performances, especially like watching on YouTube. I really enjoyed it. It was a different venue than what we have,
Right?
And it was really, really good. I was surprised at what I had seen and what some of the pro wrestlers can actually do in the ring, outside of the ring especially. And there was actually 2 of the guys that did somersaults in the air at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, it kind of like overwhelms you to see people doing this. You know, it was just a very, very good show.
Great. And what was the environment like in terms of the crowd?
The crowd was so into the show. I haven't seen this before or felt it. It was. They were into it. They were into the walkout music, which wasn't a lot of the hard rock that you hear. It was like 80s music, and the people were singing to it, clapping to it. They were they had their favorite wrestlers, and like they were split. Like half the crowd was going like Warhorse, and the other half was doing the other guy's name. It was way different. It was exciting. A lot of energy.
Okay, nice. And so Black Label Pro is one of the many federations that are active in this area, and their next show is going to be, let's see, did I lose it already? On August 18th, Saturday, August 18th, called Black Label Pro National Slampoons Summer Vacation. It will be at Universal Fitness in Crown Point, Indiana. Some of the people that will be on the card are Darby Allin, D'Lo Brown, and Joey Janela, plus many, many more. If it doesn't conflict with another gig, you think you might go back?
Yeah, I think I would. I honestly think I would.
So you recommend it?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's awesome. So they run every couple of months, it seems. There's other groups that run very, very frequently or much more infrequently. So I'm just going to give a quick rundown here, and then we'll talk about you, because that's why you're here, right? So Thursday, July 19th, FWF Functified Wrestling out at the Marshall County 4-H Fairgrounds in Argos, Indiana. That's a free show outdoors this Thursday night. Friday, July 20th, Wrestling Theology Fellowship has a show called Glow in the Dark down in Carmel, Indiana, which is just outside of Indianapolis. Now, that's a long way from Valpo, but a lot of the performers on that card are very familiar to people that go to some of the shows up here, because these guys drive. They put mileage on to go to these shows. Saturday, July 21st, UWF is doing a show in South Bend called United We Stand. So next weekend, you could actually have a show Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night if you wanted to yourself put on the mileage to get to these places, and I'm probably missing some. The next weekend, July 27th, is the RCW 11th Annual Slam Cancer Benefit Show in Mishawaka that I already mentioned. Saturday, August 4th, we have Extreme Sports Entertainment with A Day of Reckoning in Plymouth, Indiana. It's about 45 minutes from here. Saturday, August 11th, ARW Pro is doing a show called Headlock on Hunger. This is another fundraiser type of event. All the proceeds are going to go to the Portage Food Pantry. This is going to take place outdoors at the Portage, Texas Roadhouse on Highway 6. August 18th, again, the Black Label Pro show coming up next. That same day and the following day, August 18th and 19th, we have Pro Wrestling King doing Barbecue Bash and Brawl at the Mall. These are both just over the border in southwest Michigan. Barbecue Bash is in Niles, Michigan at Fisher's Tips and Chips. So in a parking lot outside a restaurant, I'm presuming. And then Sunday, August 19th, they're having Brawl at the Mall. They actually set up a wrestling ring inside the atrium area of a shopping mall and go for it in there. Saturday, August 25th, we have Backbreaker Wrestling doing Super Slam in Griffith, Indiana, which is nice, and I consider that local. That's not that far. And then Saturday, August 25th, we have FWF Firestorm out in Warsaw, Indiana. Now, that's kind of a haul. That's pushing an hour and a half. But this is just the ones that I know about. And so within the next, what is that? That stretches out about a month. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's like 10 or 11 shows within a month that we could go see.
Right.
That gets expensive, and it gets it puts wear and tear on your car. But for those people that get hooked, it's fun. Are you totally hooked yet?
I am totally hooked.
Totally hooked.
Totally.
All right. Well, let's talk about what you've been doing. So we're working security for ACW. You not were, but still are. And then you decided to give the training a shot.
Correct.
To the working in the ring and learning how to wrestle. What made you decide to do that?
Jimmy Holmes, who's also my boxing trainer, he's connected with ACW. He's seen how excited I was about the wrestling and how I had taken to it. And the first show I went to, the first wrestling that I had seen, Cliff Caviar was in the first match. And I was very drawn to what he had done.
Mm-hmm.
And I had seen him in a couple more shows, and he's sort of given me an inspiration, you know.
Sure.
And then I seen a couple of the other wrestlers like Billy the Kid and, of course, Drex Odell. And watching these guys perform, it's just like, wow, you know, the things that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been an athlete all my life, and I wanted to go one time. Jimmy told me, go one time, see if you like it, you know. And it's something I never did in my life. I've never wrestled. So I wanted to go in, give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I went one time. I enjoyed it. Went again, and it just kind of grew on me. It's like, wow, you know, this is great. I can do it. And I've gone 5 weeks in a row now, and it's just, you know, you get banged up, you get bruised.
Mm-hmm. You feel it?
Yeah, you're sore, you're tight. I mean, it's real. It's real. And I enjoy it. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. And, you know, some people think that, wow, he's doing this just to say he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm doing it because I am developing a passion for this, a love for it. I mean, it's like, wow, I really want to do this. This is like, you know, I mean, I really want to perform it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where I'm at with it. I really, really want to do this.
And so you've been the reason I think this is really neat is that you've been boxing for a while.
Oh yeah.
And so you're juggling both at this point?
Yes, I'm doing boxing 3 times a week, and actually we're having a fundraiser in September, so I'm actually training. We're having, like I said, a fundraiser, so I'm training to be ready for that. So 3 times a week in the boxing gym, and I've been with the boxing gym for 2 years now, and plus I'm doing the pro wrestling training on Sundays.
Okay, Jimmy's been here before in just the studio, so let's make a footnote for ourselves that when it gets closer to this fundraiser, maybe you and he ought to come back out and promote that.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Do you find that these two routines, do they complement each other? Is it easy to kind of go back and forth, or is it harder than you'd think?
Well, on Sundays, like I said, I train with the pro wrestling, and then Monday I have boxing. So Mondays is a little hard to spar because I'm a little bit tight and sore. So it's kind of hard a little bit because boxing is a little more physical for me because you're moving constantly, you constantly, you know, blocking the shots and everything. not that pro wrestling is, it's, you're learning how to do things, how to move. You got to be a little bit more precise, and they really do preach safety. Safety is the number one thing. In boxing, well, it's a little different because you try to stay safe, but you're going to get hit, and you learn defense to protect yourself. Things don't always go the way you want it to in boxing. So I mean, you're trying to hurt the other guy.
Sure.
In the pro wrestling and training, it's not that way.
But the unexpected can always happen.
Exactly.
In either scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can you think of one thing that that really surprised you in terms of, okay, I've been working on boxing for a while and I'm going to try training and wrestling, something that you thought might have been a snap that turned out to be really difficult, or something that you thought might have been really difficult that turned out to be easy in that transition?
For going to boxing?
From boxing to wrestling, yeah.
To wrestling.
Or just something that was really surprising, that surprised you about one of these, about wrestling, either way.
Well, I think with the pro wrestling, it's a little bit more aerobic than what boxing is. Both take a lot of cardio. And like I said, both of them really have to be precise. So I think the boxing is actually helping me with the pro wrestling, to be honest with you. With being precise on things, I kind of, because I'm so competitive, and I've been that way since I've been 16 in all my sports, I've kind of had to back off my competitiveness a little bit for the pro wrestling. So that's kind of a little bit of the problem I'm having.
If somebody was thinking about getting into the training regimen that you have in wrestling now, what advice would you have for them?
Well, one, you come into the sport of pro wrestling knowing that you do have a love for it and definitely a passion for it. You can't really come into pro wrestling just because you want to come into pro wrestling. There's got to be some kind of feeling for it. I mean, I look at these guys in ACW, and when they start talking about pro wrestling, they get these sparkle in their eyes, and they get excited about talking about it. And when they do that, it's just kind of like you get excited about it, and it just makes you want to train harder and be around them. And it's just so cool, just to be around them because of that reason. So, I mean, if you want to try it, I definitely suggest it, that you definitely go for it. But just realize that when you do come to training to do it, be prepared, be ready, that, this is real. These bruises, you're going to get bruised, you're going to get sore. And, this is not fake. I'm sorry, but it's not like I thought it was. I learned right away from day one. And if you enjoy it, it's going to go really great for you. And like I said, there's a couple guys right now that really want to take this further in their career, and I really, I'm really hoping for these guys that they do succeed, because they're great guys.
With everything that you've been learning in the training part of this for wrestling, you're getting more and more entrenched and involved that way. You're also trying to, seems like, get out there just as a fan and enjoy it. Are you able to just totally turn off the training part of your brain when you're watching it as a fan, or are you now already starting to kind of watch it from a more critical point of view, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I am, because I'm watching what they're doing, and I'm trying, even though I haven't really gone that far, but just watching how they move, and how precise they are, and just trying to say, hey, did we do anything like that yet? Or is that something I'd like to try in the future? So yeah, I am a little critical on that, because I'm watching. I actually watched last night on some of their bumps or their falls, to see if they did it correctly.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I could see where a couple times they didn't do it correctly. You know, so
Are you able to say anything that in your training you haven't? You're something that you're trying to pick up on. You don't quite have it yet, but you've got your eye on it.
yeah, there's a not. You know, right now in my training, I'm not really that far, so I really can't say
Sure.
for sure on that.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Okay. Because I know we're working with an abbreviated amount of time here, and in just a minute or so, I'm going to need to switch it over to the next programming. But what I was hoping to, so I think what we'll do is, like I said, we'll make a note to have in the schedule sometime. You said the fundraiser for this is the DeMott Boxing Club,
Correct.
fundraiser that Jimmy's going to be putting on, and you'll be involved in.
Yeah, it's going to be the Mott Boxing Club's 10th anniversary.
Okay, nice.
And he's trying to bring back as many boxers from the 10 years that he was open to come in and participate in the celebration of it.
Okay, that's good. Let's plan to have, say, DeMott Boxing Club night here on the show. And in the process of talking about all that and plugging the fundraiser, I'll check back in with you, and we'll talk about things that you've, like, what have you developed since the last time we talked, and at that point, what have you picked up? Have any light bulbs gone on? You know, something that you were particularly excited about picking up,
Okay.
something like that.
And just one last thing. If there are people that's interested, they can contact the DeMott Boxing Club about coming out and trying out with the ACW. They are always looking for students.
Okay, good. And that's so you live in Valpo, is that, or at least?
Yes, I do.
So that's about a 45-minute commute down there.
Yeah, about 45
Yeah,
minutes.
so
There's 4 of us that live up here.
And it's a pleasant drive. It's not like driving 45 minutes towards Chicago. It's a nice, pleasant Indiana country road drive.
Yeah, and then if you love it, it's not a big deal.
Exactly. All right. Thanks for coming in. I'm going to turn it over now to the next show in line. I'm Ken the Metal Professor. This has been the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. My guest has been Mark Eitel, and stick around for the next broadcast, 2 hours of punk rock radio here on WVLP.